Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, depending on when you are watching this. I am Jovan Taylor, and you are having coffee with the Neuroscientist and Mindset Success Catalyst. I help people to understand the greatest technology on the planet Earth, the brain. Everyone has a brain, and it's the control center of everything we do and everything we do not do. I believe that the brain is the next stage of mastering our humanity in this life. And the more we understand it, the better. Today's topic is how not to worry so much. And of course, because I'm a neuroscientist and I'm here to help shift your thinking to reach your highest level of potential in your thinking, expand your thinking, expand your horizons, I'm going to look at worry from the lens of the brain and the mind, okay? Because that's what I'm wired to do. I see things from the angle of how the greatest technology on the planet works, our brain and mind, all right? So grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your drink of choice, water, and hang out with me for a few minutes. You are having coffee with a neuroscientist. So we're talking about worry. Worry doesn't have to be a bad thing. If you understand the brain and how it works, you'll know that worry is actually an advantage to our human experience. It can actually be a superpower. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the benefits, okay? The benefits of worry so that we can expand your definition of worry. How about that? All right, so here's a quote. What worries you masters you. What worries you masters you. But if you learn how to master worry, you'll be the master of how you want to use worry to propel you. Okay? So, like I said, worry is not a bad thing if you understand the brain and the mind. It actually alerts you. It puts you into a higher state of readiness and excitement to expect something or anticipate something that matters, that's important, that's coming up, that could be life-changing. Okay? Did you know worry could do all that? Yes. In particular, there are brain chemicals going on. There's some dopamine going on that helps you to get ready, to get alert, to have excitement for something coming up, okay? And you want that, all right? So if you think about taking a test, for example, don't you worry a little bit before you take a test? I have a couple of my students on here, a couple of my neuroscience students on here. How did you feel before you took my neuro assessment to become a neuro coach? Did you have a little bit of worry? Did you have a little bit of anxiety? That matters because it mattered to you that you did well so that you can expand your knowledge and how you show up in the world, right? You wanted to do well on the test so that you could become a higher level of yourself, a neuro coach, right? A neuro leader, someone that can tell the world, this is how I serve you at this higher level because I understand how your brain works and I can help you to optimize that. So it was important to you to pass my neuroscience assessment, right? So a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of worry, a little bit of stress puts you in a frame of mind that allowed you to prepare for something important. All right. So it allows you to anticipate the future, right? So if you are anticipating the future because you're a little worried about it, you can see the potential pitfalls. That allows you to be what? Someone who can see into the future. A fortune teller. That sounds like a superpower to me. Okay? What happens if you never worry? If you have a lackadaisical, lax attitude about life, right? The don't worry, be happy all the time type of mindset. In the brain, that means you probably have an overabundance of what's called serotonin, and you have actually a lower motivation to do things. Okay? So having a little worry is good for you to anticipate what's coming in the future. Does that make sense? All right. Now, women, and if you've been following me, you know that I talk about the differences between the female brain and the male brain, right? The female brain tends to worry a little bit more than the male brain because we're wired to worry a little bit more because it's a survival mechanism. It's our ability to see inside the future, to anticipate what we need to do to ensure that the family is safe, that the needs are taken care of, that we don't encounter problems before they come, right? So that's why male brains and female brains work a little differently, because women can tend to see 10, 20 steps ahead before the man can realize that there's a problem there. Okay. So, I'm going to talk about when worrying can go too far. Okay. But right now I'm talking about the benefits of worry. It's a part of our DNA. It's a part of our wiring to be able to anticipate the future in the form of seeking out what could go wrong. Okay. Because we want to survive. We want to make sure our offspring survives. We want to make sure we're safe. Okay. And so if we can anticipate problems, what else can we do? We can ask for help, which is one of the reasons why women are more collaborative than men, because we anticipate that there may be problems. So we're more likely to go get help. We're more likely to eat healthier. We're more likely to go see a doctor. Okay, you see how worry can actually benefit you in some way? Because you're anticipating what could possibly hinder you from being well, doing well. Okay? All right, so women, we're called worry warts, but it's actually, if you understand how to master worry, and instead of letting it master you, you can use it as a superpower and increase your ability to be prepared for the future. Does that make sense? You're having coffee with the neuroscientist. You're not going to get it like this, people. Worry can be a master tool. Using your brain better can be a master tool for you. Okay? So now women, we produce less serotonin in the brain, and serotonin helps you to relax. So it's like a natural Prozac. Okay? So men tend to produce more serotonin, which means they worry less. Okay? We produce less, 50% less on average serotonin. So we tend to worry more. Okay? So I already told you, it's a survival mechanism. We're wired to do so. Okay? Also, worry, another benefit of worry, because that's what we're talking about, benefits of worry. Okay? It's feedback. Remember I talked about dopamine? There's dopamine going on in your brain during the times of worry, because dopamine gets you excited, ready, alert, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. So worry, take it as feedback that you need to pay attention to something in your life. that needs your attention, that needs you to shift the way you're thinking about it. It's a part of your life where you need to take some action, some different action. What is it? You have to identify it, because it's not going to go away. Because, worry, when you worry and worry and worry, something is trying to nudge you to say, pay attention, pay attention. This is feedback. And if you don't, somebody's going to get hurt, or you're not going to meet your goal. Okay? So you got to identify what is worrying you and use it as feedback. It's in your benefit to recognize that as feedback. Okay? Pay attention. So those are the benefits of worry. Okay? It allows you to see into the future. It could be a superpower because it allows you to have that predictive power, and it increases your survival and safety. Okay. It makes you prepared for the future, and it's feedback to give attention to something that is significant to you. All right. Does that make sense? So now I'm going to go into the strategies on how to reduce too much worry. Okay. So when we have a very low level of what's called serotonin in our brain, that natural Prozac, since women make less of it, we tend to worry more. Okay, so that worrying can turn into anxiety and depression, and it's hard to come out of. So when you learn to master worry, you can prevent going into too far left to that anxiety, depression mode. Okay, so one reason we go too far into the worry, depression mode is something that happens to women. We get on our cycles. Okay. When we are on our monthly cycle, serotonin plummets. I mean, there's a sharp decrease in the brain. It's not a gradual thing, just a sharp decrease in the brain of serotonin. And you wonder why it's hard to relax. It's hard to focus. And then that's when the worrying thoughts start to take over. Okay. It's hard to come out of that negative thinking mode. All right. I see some questions, so I'm going to pop up a question or two. All right. Malcolm has a question. Worry is your brain's way of warning you to pay attention to a relationship. Yes, it is. So one reason why women file divorces more than men is because we have anticipated problems that the man can't see right away, right? Remember I said men naturally produce more serotonin than women. So they have more of the don't worry, be happy. We don't need to seek help, because they don't see ahead far enough like the women do, because they don't worry as much. Or when they do worry, it's not as significant, or they can compartmentalize their worries more than women. Okay. So just because of a brain chemical, they worry less. Okay. I mean, there's other reasons why people worry more and less, of course, but that's a natural reason why. Yeah. So yeah, we can say that, Malcolm. During our cycle, it plummets. So ask yourself, why am I worrying so much? This is why mindfulness is so powerful, to be in tune in the moment, to be able to read your bodily cues. Because when you find yourself worrying, having negative thinking, and you can't come out of it, it just keeps, you just keep at it, and it keeps reoccurring. Ask yourself, am I on my cycle? Because once you identify, okay, wait a minute, I'm on my cycle. Shantae was saying that our serotonin plummets during this time, and low serotonin is one of the factors that helps or keeps us worrying and in that negative thought level. Okay, so what can you do? So now you can go to a strategy, right? Now you can take some 5-HTP or some over-the-counter serotonin, which Dr. Daniel Amen, who's a world-renowned neuropsychiatrist, says you can do. Okay, Always talk to your doctor before taking any supplements. I have to say that because I have to say that. But if you take serotonin 50 to 100 milligrams a day, that can help boost your serotonin in your brain to put you at a level of thinking that will reduce that worry, okay, and decrease those automatic negative thoughts, called ants, okay? So identify if you're in your cycle. Another strategy to worry less is to journal it. Get that negative thought, that worry that you have identified out of your mind and into the world, crystallize it on paper, because now you can start strategically figuring out, is this worry warranted? Is it realistic? Is it true? And so you're evaluating, okay? So shift that worry, that energy, that thought, that negativity onto paper so you can start seeing it with your mind's eye, calling that left brain to say, okay, let's be strategic about this instead of in our emotional brain, okay? So you can evaluate it and determine, hey, is the world going to stop spinning if I don't take care of this? Will it matter in 100 years? Is it true? Is it realistic? And then if it's something you can handle or you need to handle, take some action on it. Now you're moving that energy in your brain. You're going from that emotional activation, that amygdala activation, to your prefrontal cortex. And it's the prefrontal cortex that's responsible for taking action, for deciding to take action. Okay. So then you are working at the higher level of your brain instead of that emotional brain that's keeping you in your emotional head. Okay. So another strategy is to journal. Another strategy to decrease your worries, if it's taking over, okay, because you want to learn to master your worries, okay? That's what I'm talking about. Reframe what worry is, okay? You can change your perception on what worry is. And that was the first half of this live stream, right? If you're just coming on and you missed it, I talked about worry being a superpower, okay? It's a predictive power. It allows you to see what's coming ahead. So if you reframe it like that, say, okay, I am worrying. Worrying is telling me to pay attention to something, and I can use it as a superpower to predict what may happen. But now, since it hasn't happened yet, I have the power to come up with a strategy and take action so that this thing that's worrying me, this thought, this idea that hasn't happened yet, won't take shape. Okay. So change your perspective on how you can use worry for your benefit. Okay. It's your superpower. It tells you something is important. Okay. Reframing. So my neuroscience students on here, that when you reframe, you quiet down the what? That threat brain, right? That amygdala that will hijack your ability to think clearly from your prefrontal cortex, right? All right. Identify the worry. That's another strategy. Identify what's worrying you. Sometimes we're stressed out, and we don't really know subconsciously why it's happening. But every now and then it'll come to our conscious, and I want you to grab it. Oh, it's finances. Oh, I'm worried about my mother. I'm worried about my father's health. I'm worried about my new baby. That's a source of worry. Our worry brain kicks in when we have new babies in our lives. Are we going to be a good mother? Is my baby going to survive? I mean, you have to think about the phases of life you're going through as well that could cause the worry brain to become overactive. So another strategy is to identify the phase of life you're going through, because sometimes it's warranted to be overactive in your worry so that you can be more attentive to that part of your life. Okay, you can be more mindful and attentive to that part of your life. Okay, so identifying your worries is important, and then you can ask for help. Okay, once you identify, you can ask for help. So one of the reasons why men don't ask for directions is because they're not worried about being lost. They don't think they're lost. They don't see the issue. But women, we're like, I don't think this is the right way. And, they're looking ahead. So women tend to ask for help more than men. Okay. So once you identify a worry, you can then ask for help, which will help you with whatever is worrying you. I mean, it sounds basic, but it makes sense once you put it all together. Once you put all the concepts of what's going on in the brain together with this thing called worry that affects so many different people. Okay. And one last strategy is to get present. Get present, because worrying is a symptom of the future. Okay. What if this happens? Okay. What if I don't? What if I can't? So to some degree, yeah, maybe we need to be anticipating what ifs, but when it overtakes our ability to function, when it's causing so much stress, when it's causing us to lash out or retreat or not eat, all those symptoms that worry can do, then that's when we have a problem, and we need to get present and centered. And once you are present, meaning what is in front of me right now? What am I looking at? What am I smelling? Who am I speaking with? We are having coffee with the neuroscientist. Sometimes when we're drinking coffee, we're thinking about our day and we're trying to put things together. But if you find yourself worrying, start smelling your coffee. Coffee has a very strong scent, right? And your sense of smell is one of the most ancient neural pathways or wiring in your brain. So you can automatically get centered just by smelling something strong, getting in the moment so that you're not worrying about the future. That makes sense, right? So you can train your brain to stop worrying about the future by using the strategy of getting present in the moment, by heightening your other senses, shifting the way your other senses are being used, paying attention to what you're seeing around you, what you're hearing around you, what you're smelling, what you're eating, what you're tasting. All of those things can help you get centered in the moment. Taking deep breaths, oxygenating that prefrontal cortex, okay, to help you to make decisions and to calm down that worry part of your brain. Malcolm has a question. He says, does the brain register worry the same as threat? That's a good question, because we actually have a part of our brain called the anterior cingulate cortex. You should know that, Mr. Malcolm. You're familiar with that part of the brain, shall I say. But to your question, that's a good question, because the ability to manage your worries has to do with the anterior cingulate cortex in your prefrontal cortex. So it's a good question, because on one hand, it's the job of the ACC, the anterior cingulate cortex, to shift your attention and to detect error. But if that part of the brain is not functioning like it should, you won't be able to shift your attention away from the worries, away from this excessive thought patterns, which, if you're not able to do that, that means your amygdala, that threat part of your brain, has more leeway to get activated and seize more of the activity or blood flow of your prefrontal cortex. Great question, Malcolm. Great question. All right. So that's what I wanted to share, that what worries you masters you unless you learn to master worry, appreciate it for what it is, understand that it's a part of us, and we can use it as a superpower, and we can master it and direct it to empower us versus keep us from our higher authentic selves. Make sense? Thanks so much for joining. Make sure you share this out because I guarantee we have a lot of worried minds on this planet. And I know these methods and this shifting of thinking about what worry is can really serve those who have an issue with worrying. And if you understand worry at this level, at the brain level, then just maybe we can reduce some people who get depressed or have general anxiety disorder. That's keeping them from showing up in the world every day with that higher state of mind. That's my goal. My mission is to empower 100 million minds to use their brains better, to operate at the highest level of themselves. And I really need you to do it. I need you to share this because I can't reach 100 million minds by myself. It's a collective thing. We're all connected. So I depend on you all to share this message. All right. I appreciate you always. Remember, when you better your mind, you better your brain, then you can better your impact. Take care, everyone.